Imagine stepping outside your house and being hit by a blast of air so cold it feels like it's burning your skin. That's the everyday reality for the people living in Yakutsk, a remote city tucked deep inside Siberia and known for something nobody would want to be famous for. It's considered the coldest inhabited place on the entire planet. Temperatures there have already dropped past -60 degrees, a level of cold that most of us can't even picture. To get an idea, your home freezer usually sits at around -18. Now try to imagine taking care of cattle, fixing barns, checking fences, and doing all the work of a farm in a place that's almost 4 times colder than your freezer. It sounds like a scene from a survival documentary, but that's just normal life for the farmers who live there, where the extreme cold changes absolutely everything about how people survive. In Yakutsk, if someone turns off their car outside, they might as well say goodbye to the engine because the fluids freeze so fast that the vehicle simply refuses to run again. That's why many people leave the engine running nonstop, even when the car isn't moving at all. And wearing metal-framed glasses? Not the best idea. The frames can freeze solid and stick to your face like they're welded on. Even the houses need to be built differently. Instead of resting on the ground like we're used to in Brazil, they're lifted on tall supports because the soil is made of permafrost, a layer of frozen earth that never melts. If you build directly on top of it, the warmth from the house softens the ice, the ground sinks, and the whole place begins to crack apart. Everything there requires some sort of adaptation. It's like living on top of an endless block of ice. And even in this wild environment full of challenges, rural life still exists. There are farms, animals, people growing vegetables inside heated greenhouses, and even harvesting small fruits when the weather allows. It sounds impossible, but they've learned their own ways to work the land and raise livestock in conditions we in Brazil can hardly imagine. Farms around Yakutsk are usually small and family-run. Each household tends to look after a few dairy cows, some goats, chickens, and the tough local horses that survive those brutal winters. And right from the start, there's a big difference. Once winter really sets in, no animal stays outside. When the cold becomes too much, everything moves into insulated barns designed to trap every bit of warmth they can. These barns are sealed so tightly that the animal's body heat alone keeps the inside above freezing. They also use something called a deep bedding system, with layer after layer of straw that builds up and acts like natural insulation. So even if the world outside is at -60, the animals stay protected. The farmer's routine is intense. Long before sunrise, someone is already in the barn bringing hay and checking the animals' water. And water becomes a serious problem because it freezes in just a few minutes. Many rely on heated drinkers or improvised systems. Those who don't have these options must carry warm water several times a day because it turns to ice almost immediately. And snow doesn't count as real hydration, since animals still need actual liquid water. Life on the farm never slows down, and even the animals' diet changes. In Yakutsk's brutal cold, their bodies burn far more energy just to stay warm. A cow that already eats well in normal climates needs around 20 to 30% more feed during winter. It's not an exaggeration, it's survival. The more she eats, the more the rumen works, and that internal process helps keep her body warm enough to handle the frozen world outside. That's why the hay stored during the short summer is practically a matter of life or death. Without that mountain of feed, the animals simply wouldn't survive the brutal winter ahead. And the local horse is almost like a cold weather superhero. Over centuries, it adapted into a compact breed with fur so thick it looks like a natural coat, and a layer of fat that works like built-in insulation. The craziest part is that, unlike the cows, these horses live outdoors all year long. Even when everything is frozen solid, they dig through the snow with their hooves until they find grass buried underneath. Sometimes they end up covered in ice, looking like statues made by nature, but they keep standing strong as if nothing strange is happening around them. Besides carrying people and hauling supplies, they're also used for meat and milk. That milk becomes a traditional fermented drink called kumis, a reminder of how the people there learned to work with nature instead of fighting against it. The cows in Yakutsk are different from the ones we know too. They're smaller, with short legs, tiny ears, and a winter coat that grows thicker to trap every bit of warmth. Their genetics show clearly that this cattle was shaped to survive in a place that would wipe out most normal breeds. Still, the farmers don't take chances. When the cold tightens its grip, they make sure the animals have shelter, deep bedding, and everything that might help them stay warm. Life on the land is divided into two completely uneven seasons, the huge winter and the tiny summer. Winter dominates almost the entire year, roughly 8 months in which the absolute priority is simply keeping everything alive through an endless sea of ice. Then, when summer finally appears, it feels like someone switched the world to full speed. The days stretch to almost 20 hours of sunlight, and every single task has to be done quickly. It's time to plant, harvest, cut hay, dry it, stack it, fix fences, patch the roof, everything at once, because this short window is what guarantees food and structure for the freezing months that return right after. During this period, the fields turn into real haymaking machines. The houses end up surrounded by piles and piles of straw, all neatly arranged and covered, because the winter winds and snowstorms show no mercy. Anyone who fails to build a good stockpile will struggle badly when the weather closes in again. And of course, Yakutsk isn't only about hay. There's much more happening behind the scenes. Believe it or not, even with a cold so strong it feels like it freezes your thoughts, people there still grow food. They manage to produce potatoes, carrots, cabbage, beets, and even a few fast-growing zucchinis, all using varieties bred to mature quickly before the frost returns. Many families set up small plastic greenhouses just to help the first sprouts survive. When harvest time comes, nothing is stored underground because digging a cellar is useless. Everything freezes and spoils. So they build insulated storage sheds raised above the ground, designed specifically to hold a stable temperature. But the real pride of modern farming in the region is the Suri greenhouse, created with Japanese technology. That's where the magic happens. Even if it's -40 outside, inside it feels like summer, warm, bright, and perfect for producing vegetables, cucumbers, tomatoes, and even strawberries throughout the entire year. These greenhouses transformed life there, because before that almost all food came from far away, costing a lot and taking weeks to arrive. Now they have a pocket of warmth growing fresh produce right in the middle of eternal ice. The city has its own strange little habits too. At the local market, for example, meat and fish are displayed out in the open with no refrigerator at all. They don't need one. The air itself freezes everything perfectly. The fish get so solid they feel like rocks, and at home people slice them into thin pieces to make stroganina, a traditional dish that looks a bit like frozen sashimi with simple seasoning. Even in food preparation, the cold turns into an ally, working like a giant natural freezer for everyone who lives there. Farther north, where the temperature drops even more, nomadic groups still raise reindeer. They move constantly with their herds, setting up temporary camps and following whatever patches of land still offer food. Reindeer provide meat, transport, hides, everything. It's a tradition passed from father to son, a way of raising animals that only works if you're always on the move. Closer to the capital, many families split their days between their small farms and the heavy work in the gold and diamond mines, which are the backbone of the local economy. Still, the most impressive thing of all is how the people of Yakutsk manage to adapt. They keep cows, horses, gardens, and even greenhouses running smoothly in the coldest inhabited region on Earth. It's living proof that with creativity and courage, even the harshest environment can become home. And if you've stayed with me all the way to the end, it's because you enjoyed this trip through the frozen countryside of one of the coldest places in the world. So go ahead and help the channel. Drop a like, hit subscribe, and tell me in the comments what you thought of this unbelievable story. And hey, if you found this icy farm interesting, I'm sure you'll enjoy the video showing up on your screen right now. Largest dairy farm in Brazil. Click there, because it's really worth watching.